request.
Oh no, Facebook timed. Oh no, I didn't. Sorry, I got it.
We're live on Facebook. How are you, Mr. Burgio? Happy birthday!
Happy birthday! Oh, wrong one. Yeah, happy birthday.
Listen to the crowd.
Listen to the crowd. Well done.
My God, you got a crowd there on Facebook. I can hear clapping and stuff.
Dude, am I live on Facebook? It's playing up. Yeah, I am. Okay.
Yeah, you are. Hey, guys and girls, how are you out there? Thank you very, very, very much. Go, Bird. Snap it.
Yes, snap it. Welcome to Morning Minutes, episode 213. It's Novak Properties' birthday with myself, Michael Burgio, and the one and only Mr. Novak, CEO, founder, director, man in charge of Novak Properties for the past 18 years, with obviously Lisa Novak as well. Happy birthday. Tell us about it.
Wow. What
18 years.
How fast did it go, everyone? Far out for our locals. Like, it seemed like we were only down the road a little while ago. 2002 started the business. What do you reckon?
Well, I'd just say on Facebook's not giving me the opening. So, well, 2002, I was probably still in diapers. I imagine real estate is very, very different or on a business level, but take us back to why you started Novak Properties. I know you're big on your bucket list and goals. What was your reason? What were your goals? Did you ever expect for Novak to be what it is today? Is it not as far as you would have thought? Is it better in a totally different direction? Like, tell us.
You know what? I expected more. And I'm not disappointed. I'm really happy because one thing, I think when I was 23 starting the business, you just got so much energy and so many dreams, and you're so virile.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And you sort of it was only really one focus. But as we got older, it was, hang on a sec, kids, hang on a sec, quality time, hang on a sec, health. We lost both of our dads, God bless them. And, it was a lot more comes into it, a lot more. You get sidelined a lot more from stuff you just didn't even think about. But to answer your question, I thought we would have taken over the world.
Yeah. So did you always vision one office or multiple? What was great? Luke, thanks for jumping on. Jeff, Michelle,
hey guys,
thank you. This wouldn't be
it's our birthday
without you guys. For one, Novak supporters, fans,
yes,
and also Mark. So Luke, go back 2002.
2002. Thank you, buddy. So back to 2002. So yeah, thought stars are in my eyes. Stars are in my eyes. 23 years of age. Was given the responsibility of running, or took the responsibility of running a real estate business. And I've got a 22-year-old daughter, and to think that we were similar ages when we developed and conceptualized and started and everything. Novak, it was like, wow, that was young.
Yeah, very young. And like when you look at even to this day, most people don't start an agency that young. Like if you look at the people, let's say Northern Beaches, who have started, they're starting 35, 40. Like I think maybe even someone internally to the office, like you're 6 years younger than I am now, like young. So that took cojones.
It took
that took a lot.
It was really funny because I was selling a hell of a lot of property. So I was in the professionals group, which had 700 salespeople in the network prior to starting Novak. And I was, really young and doing a lot of volume. And I never even thought about opening my own agency until I actually got fired. Sounds like a bit of a Josh Teslin story, not with the fire thing, but just with he was doing volume and I was doing volume, and then we started our own thing. That's what I'm talking about. But it was very interesting because, life was good, life was simple. And then in the network of the professionals, had a great team, good boss, and I was number one in the country with dollar value and number one in the country with volume. And so I was used to doing a lot of high volume and stuff like that. So pretty much equivalent to probably, I guess, the top 5 or 10 in the country at the moment, doing those sort of volumes. It's interesting, eh? And then
so you had a pretty good life. Typically, like, if you're that in today's terms, you had a pretty good life as a sales agent, and it's like, why would you change it? Sort of thing. You didn't have the stress of staff, you didn't have the stress of rent, you didn't have the stress of all that goes with it, and you're making good coin, I imagine, buying property, and your world just turns upside down.
Yeah, and look, I don't know if it's a good life, guys. Like, it's doing everything that young, and now flip side 18 years later down the track, it would appear as a good life to some of us internally in the office because that's how we're driven. But I know certainly to my friends at the time, they were like, dude, you're taking it all so seriously. Like, I partied hard. Like, I've always been a good drinker. And
Rakia,
and love to smoke. But when buddies were sort of going out for barbies, the next cigars, when buddies were going out, on holidays and trips and weekends away and stuff like that, I was always stuck at work. So for me, it was a choice, and not a choice that most people wouldn't actually want to take because it was just giving away a lot of good things.
Well, let's face it, a lot of people at 18, 19, 20, 22 are still don't even know what they're doing, let alone taking on a career, a business where you're going to have to put yourself under serious financial strain and work 100 hours a week and be responsible. And the big responsibility of being, as a sales agent, Mark, and coming from a sales agent, you're only responsible for yourself. You're quite selfish. But then you've had to be responsible for staff people paying their own mortgage, their own livelihood.
A lot of families.
That would have been stressful.
And even up to 3 months ago, I was heavily reminded of that responsibility. You'd think after 18 years of business, you'd be in the green zone and out of the, but it was pretty sobering 4 months ago when COVID hit, about the reality and the responsibility that's on our shoulders. We've got 50 full-time staff that are not commission only staff. They're relying on weekly wages, and everything took a hit. It's funny.
And testament to you from a staff member, where a lot of other agents we heard in the industry were all deducted 10%, 30%, 40% of wages. But if you don't mind me sharing, you stood strong. We put a lot in, you put a lot, and it's a good, happy little family. And I think that's a testament of still being here 18 years, those principles.
Well, look, I give you that as a business decision, as an example of the type of business that we are. Good or bad, I don't know. I'll tell you when I retire, but which is going to be about 50 years away. But I think that at that time when COVID hit in its prime, a lot of my business friends and business community and had gone to their staff and asked for 50% off for the period of up until 1st of September. They'd asked their staff for 30% off their wages. They asked their staff to dip into their super purely as a survival mechanism. Some of my really clever buddies did that and they managed also equalisation payments. And they said, oh, look, if there is no knock-on revenue, then we will top up with equalisation payments. And a very dear friend of mine, and again, I guess think you're a summation of your friends around you, and that's what the 18 years of business of the best part of the 18 years of business has been friends and family and community around me that are closer than ever. I'm closer to them, they're closer to me. And one person very dear to me said, look, mate, how long have you been running the business? And I said, oh, look, 18 years. And he said, you've brought up a family, you've put your kids through school, you've taken your kids, you've traveled with your kids a lot. You love your hobbies, your cars, and you've always bought cars. You bought your home, any investments, your business where you are. He's like, I've got to tell you, I know we're in Armageddon at the moment with COVID, but he's like, I just want you to think like all the people that are around you in your business have been there through your hard times and hard times. I said, now it's hard times for them and for you. And he said, if you've got the ability to stand and to stand strong and be there for them in the long haul in your business, he said, I think that's going to reciprocate. That's going to be far greater and far powerful a message to take into the years ahead, rather than giving everyone a chip for 12 weeks. And then we had a talk.
So
thanks,
if you're on Insta, I did a round of applause.
Yeah. Anyway, I just, point is, I guess it's our birthday, and that was just another sobering reality of we're not safe, and another sweet reality of you're governed by your decisions, because a week later, 2 weeks later, after I met with the crew, JobKeeper was announced.
Yeah.
But the message with the crew was, we're in good hands.
And one thing I want to touch on, we spoke about yesterday in our meeting, where a beautiful part of where your business is now is you've always been a step ahead of innovation.
Our business. You're in there as well, Burge.
I'm in there as well.
Yeah.
In our business, that has always been a step ahead from 2002, taking the properties from the front window down to more drastic things like the back page of the paper, and you weren't able to always execute when you thought of it due to just being a new business compared to now. Now, what were those keys? What got you very happy and juicy and excited innovation back then to what's getting you juicy and excited now? Just to sort of take a step back on how far we've come as an industry and just the next steps moving forward. Like, what was we're talking about social media selling and multimedia. Like, I don't know, what was the new thing in 2002, 2006? And just, I don't know, what was that? What were you dreaming of that wasn't being done?
So back then I was like, I'm going crazy on this shit. We were one of the first people in the northern beaches, the first people in the North Shore, the first people in the eastern suburbs, the first people in Sydney, probably the first people in Australia. We decided to have a shop front on the main road with no properties in the window. We were the only idiots doing that. And it really actually annoyed some customers, and some sales staff really got pushed, really got, lost business over it. In the end, we actually won business over it. And it reminds me a little bit about when Apple took the keyboard away from the iPhone, or when Apple took the iPhone jack away from the iPhone, and everyone went bananas over it. We took the window display away from the public, and the public were just like, it's just, no one does that. No, my real estate doesn't do that. But we did research across the top 20 things that attract a buyer and the top 20 things that attract a tenant, and none of them were window display. So we were like, if we take away 20 or 30 of those things, the 21, 22, 23rd least popular things, and we put that amount and budget and focus into the top 20 things, we can do better at what people actually want. So rather than trying to be all things to all people, we actually focused on what people voted as the most important thing, and that's where we put our time and budget.
But you didn't take away the stuff in the window and not do anything, because I know, especially when I started, you always had something catchy or something community-based in the window. So it was like one thing down, one thing up. Was that based straight away back then, or was that came in a bit later on?
That came in later because we put a projector in the window, and I'm not saying the window doesn't sell, but I'm saying, putting 30, 50 to properties up in the window on a weekly basis when your buyers are saying to you that that's not what they want. They want to see it in the paper, or they want to, at this time, they want to see it in nice brochures. They want to see it in signboards. We developed the products that people wanted more and better, and less on the products that people didn't want. Now, the window display, to answer your question, that came about 5 or 10 years later, because at the end of the day, guys and girls, eyeballs driving past your office. I know real estate officers like to go off the street, but at the end of the day, if I cannot be a tight ass and I can actually buy exposure, I will always buy exposure for cheap, because one thing we can't forget is I'm a big thing about annuity. I have a big thing about annuity and a big thing about continuity and consistency. And a street frontage, yes, we didn't have properties in there, but everyone knew that was a real estate agent, and everyone knew when they're thinking of selling. I've driven past that every day, twice a day, 365 days, 5 years. That's 1,500 times. That's a really good message for the whole community.
And I've definitely believed in that. Anyone watching, and you've seen how much signage we have up and running, we've expanded on that, where instead of just having it as an office, let's have it everywhere, just not where your office is. So,
well, even with you, Michael, you got plastic surgery to look like me, and that was just
it was strategic. It was strategic.
Yeah, it was branding. So I thought
they're going to call me more often.
Yes, and if I could replicate and go forth, that would be even more powerful.
Yeah, if you had a son, that would be me. So it just worked for both. You got to pass the business down to someone. So what gets you excited moving forward? 18 years of experience as your own owner, but also like 30 years in the industry. What's next?
Not getting bored is really important. I think nobody likes to admit it, but to consistently do something for a very long period is really boring. It's potentially dangerous. So I think that to do the same thing and expect a different result is the definition of insanity. So, we can potentially having higher expectations as we do in life and doing the same thing in our business, I think you're going to go nuts. And I do speak to people on online social media and stuff like that. People, send personal questions about their business and themselves, and they ask me, and Mark, what do you reckon? And I had a guy the other day talking about he's having a lot of trouble with him and his wife. They've been in the business for 15 years. How do you guys do it? And how do you manage not to kill each other and be bored? He was basically bored shitless. And I think that it's really, I'm really trying to dig down deep to give you an even more honest and well thought out answer. And
thank you.
I
I didn't mean it that way, but go on.
And I think that commitment, or I think keeping the mind busy, absolutely critical.
Yeah.
And because there's that saying, the devil's an empty mind is the devil's playground.
Yeah.
And I always think keeping levels of commitment high are very, very important. So I've always been a big supporter of property and investment properties and stuff like that. And I've unnecessarily bought investment properties in some people's minds. Like, do you really need that? Is that really going to change your life by having one more investment property? But that commitment, or that level of debt, from the age of starting the business and from the age of 17, has been a big deal. Yeah, I've been running the gauntlet. I've been always looking over my shoulder, trying to be better, because I've got big commitments.
But to interject into this as well with boredom, but a lot of people, when they get fear of that, they change the game they're playing. They get out of their lane. Now, talk us through your thoughts on staying in your lane, but how you can change things up so you don't get bored, but you're
Yeah,
staying in your lane. You're playing the same
massive.
game.
Yeah,
Tell us about that.
something I feel really strongly about.
Yep.
I'm surprised you brought it up. It's great.
Yep.
The Look, I think a lot of people become very good at what they do. As I said, I think they become bored, and then they often. I think we've joked about it because I've got a friend who's a psychologist that I see every morning at coffee, and um, he's got a famous saying that when people live by people a lot of ultra wealthy people. He gave an example of ultra wealthy people because it was much easier example to give. He said they live a life of beige. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, well, everything's absolutely perfect. They could not want for more. Literally everything. Everything is all out for them. He said they turn to three things. They turn to sex, they turn to drugs, or they turn to rock and roll. So sex, an affair, drugs, rock and roll, go out and party, get drunk every night and party, because they try to introduce chaos in their life of order. So to come back to answer your question, and how do you introduce chaos in your life of order? Because that's effectively what's happening. You're actually you've created so much organization, hence business, corporation, right? They're all the same word. You've created so much order and organization in your life that there's no longer any chaos. And now when there's no longer any chaos, people often burn the boats, burn the bridges, turn to another industry. They get out of real estate because, you know what, it's fucking boring. I've been doing that a long time. Not the industry is boring, but the sheer fact that they've done it for such a long time.
And not necessarily they're doing bad or anything. They're just in their mind head. They just bored, and they try and change up probably wrong. Like So go on.
Probably quite the opposite. They're actually really good at what they're doing. There's so much order. There's so much consistency. They've got so much. They've created such good systems and support. Yeah. And then they're like, well, what do I do now? So they burn it. They burn it. They sex, drugs, or rock and roll. And it's like, why? So part of what I've done and what Lisa's done is we've just always pushed ourselves.
So what's little examples? We've got a lot of agents, a lot of principals that watch this. What's little examples, if you wouldn't mind, a bit behind the scenes of how you do it, you and Lisa do it?
I don't always necessarily go for, well, this is going to sound really selfish, but in one's life, sorry, I'm talking I'm talking like a priest.
So good. You're good.
But in like a monk. But in someone's life, like these should be the principles, right? You've got to look after number one. That's you. You've got to look after.
I feel that. Thank you, Baton.
You've got to look after number two, and that's your life partner, right? Your wife. And then you've got to look after number three, and then the rest comes after that. Now, I think that something that I've done, not keeping those principles intact, and I'll reinforce that. If you put your kids before you, and you get anxiety or depression, you're no good for your kids. You're useless, right? If you don't love yourself, how is your partner going to love you? So if you actually don't pride in your presentation, pride in your principles, pride in your loyalty or honesty, how the hell are you going to be attractive to number two, right? So I think it's very important that, to answer your question, Michael, in business and staying interested, I think you actually have to satisfy or gratify yourself along the way. So I think that for me personally, and to give you an example, in the last, I moved onto a massive project of the office, which was, great sales team, great property management team. We managed 3,000 landlords and tenants, awesome sales force and crew, having a lot of fun. And it's like, now what do I do? I'm bored. I'm not going to say I'm bored, but the mind wanders, right? So new office. And it was like, okay, now if it presented itself, I didn't chase it, it presented itself. And it was like, great, we build. And then we, that was a 2 or 3 year project of getting, building something that I really loved it.
Yeah. And then even the rebrand, like the rebrand. Things that I've seen where it's like they're not like, you don't have to, but it just changes up, sparks it. You're staying in your lane. A new office benefits your lane. Rebrand benefits what's in your lane. And then you may have, as you've said before, some indulgence with a new car, a family trip, like little things which
keeps you going, keeps you interested.
Going, that excitement.
So technically you don't need it. We didn't need a new office. We were running just fine in the old one, but it was feeding number one. Do you know what I mean? Like you wanted to push yourself, you wanted to drive yourself, and the next thing, and it's funny because then the next door opens. The next thing you know, we moved into the new office and there was this massive focus and push on digital and becoming a multimedia agency. That was the next big push. And fortunately for me, it was a natural push because I love electric stuff.
Digital, yeah.
Like if the new iPhone comes out, I want it because I'm not to show everyone, but I'm truly passionate about the evolution of technology and the way it's going, and it inspires me. And then I can share that around the business. Then I can just share that around my customers. Do you know what I mean? So I think the part of being
better experience for how we sell property for everybody, and it stays in your lane.
And I'm still in my lane, guys. So I'm still running a real estate agency. I'm still doing the same boring old thing that what I was doing 27 years ago. Really, really. As much as I try to
buyers, finding sellers, exchanging contracts, managing property, collecting rent, still the same shit, just changing it up. Yep.
Same stuff, and it was like, but it was so. And the best way I can liken it after 18 years, and we're talking about our birthday today. The best part of I can liken it is when you see the magician spinning discs.
Yes.
You know how they have those discs all spinning. I always said the main disc of health and principles and that part, love, family, business, customers, crew, always kept those discs going. But in order to mess things up, I would then go and get some other discs going on the side to actually,
rather than replacing a disc with whole random company.
Stopping all of them?
Yes.
Stop all of them, and now let's go another 3 or 4 discs and try to get these things going
Always
again.
Kept the core going, staying in the lane. Yeah,
and stayed in the lane. So I think there's an amazing amount of board, not consistency, but it's a very bored consistency that to stay in your business, or as you say, in your lane, you've got to be almost a bit dumb, I think sometimes I'm I know that I'm not actually I don't have an academic, it's a nice way of saying it.
Trust me, I've tried it. I've got to spin the nice way for myself. That's why I'm not academic, but real life experience and common sense.
EQ, that emotional
EQ.
Yeah. So and enjoying that, and relationships, and like I know I met with Mr. Ree the other day, and we we're talking about that. So this is a landlord he's been with one agent for 60 years.
Yeah.
And he's switched to our agency after 60 years. And I love those conversations with him. Yeah. I really like old people.
Yeah. There's so much to learn from it, and
love them.
Like how many clients do we both of us regularly catch up with? Your Theos, your Brunos, just for a coffee, just the wealth of knowledge they have. But I will say there's been 2 really good points of advice, and what you've always said to me has really resonated. And I think this will resonate for a lot of people in business. And your highs are high as the further you go and the more successful, the higher your highs and the lower your lows. And I think a lot of people think the further you go, the longer you've been, the more successful. They don't think that's the case. And when they get to a low, they don't know, they head fuck themselves with that, because they're like, how can I be feeling worse right now and I'm better than I was the year before? But you've always said that to me, and it's really got me through when you're going through bad times, wherever it's combination of figures, health, so like just everything. Deals just falling to shit even though you're working hard, but your lows get lower and your highs get higher. And the other thing was, which I know was a mentor of yours said it to you, just keep picking up the phone. Keep answering your phone.
Nick Bakop. No.
Norm
Evangelidis, yeah.
That really resonates when the lows are lows, where you think to yourself, why, like Lee Woodward said it perfectly, where his daughter goes, like, I worked 80 hours a week, and the daughter goes, well, how many deals did you do? And he's like, none. And then she's like, well, why'd you go to work? And like that, you could say that's the low, and you just keep picking up the phone. So, yeah.
It's hard. And yeah,
Mark, thanks for jumping on. Luke, Michelle, it's good to have you. A lot of happy birthdays, Mark. And Michelle said a lot of hard work by Mark and Lisa. Outstanding result. You guys are a hell of a team. We are.
No, it's been great. And yeah, the highs definitely get higher and the lows definitely get lower. And I think that's the beauty of aging, and the beauty and the beast of aging. And Norm Evangelidis are probably in the deepest, darkest, hardest moment, probably the deepest, darkest, hardest moment in my life. That was the great words and very simple. I don't think Norm realised even what he was saying when he said it, but often someone just says something on the cuff, but it actually really gels with you. And that at that time, you know, he blew that out, and I was like, that's all I've got to do. That's all I've got to do. So I focused on just keep answering. People will ring, just keep answering that phone, and it'll just keep flowing from there.
Yeah, and it's just like that saying, keep moving forward, one step in front of each other. They don't have to be, and you'd relate to this in business a lot, like you may not be able to do the full thing you want to do or innovate or implement, but take baby steps to get there. Gradual improvement is better than delayed perfection. And I think that's a solid thing that you've always had that we've always had through the company, and I've always seen that. Just get it and improve, but get started.
The CEO of Toyota, famous quote, gradual improvement is better, much better than delayed perfection.
Yep. What's Don Panos is saying, 80% of winning is doing, like, yeah, keep moving. Alistair, thanks for jumping on. Alistair Flower.
Al's a school buddy of mine. He was one of those guys that was destined at school to have an incredible life, because you know everyone loved Al, and he's running a phenomenal business in Port Macquarie, Settlers Inn in Port Macquarie, and a couple of other really good business. I think Love Shack or something Shack out there as well. So shout out to Al. And if anyone's heading around Australia these school holidays or for Christmas, get into Port Macquarie, get into the Settlers Inn, because we've got to lubricate local, keep the money in Australia and support everyone.
Anything else you want to add on to the happy birthday of Novak? And also thank you to the community and supporters. Some of the best lessons we've learned is from our clients, from the locals. Big shout out, everyone.
Huge. And staff. We've got an amazing group of people that have worked with us, including Michael Burgio, and we got it's just an incredible crew. So thank you to the crew. Thank you to people that have worked with us previously. Everyone's added and brought something to the table and contributed that we benefit from today. And our customers, like we've got customers that have been with us since day one.
18 years.
So, you know, and love you guys big time. So it's just, it's huge to thank those people.
Beautiful. And look forward to the next 18.
Giddy up.
Giddy up. That's a take, everyone. Thank you all, and we'll be back tomorrow morning.
Thanks, Michael. Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Love you. See you. Bye.